Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly.
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
That's good.
Uh,
I think we should start in 1 minute.
okay. Let me get you in front of me so I can actually see you. There we go.
Is the light okay?
I can see you. So.
And you can hear me well, yeah?
And I can hear you as well. Yes.
Good.
Let's see if this works better here. Good.
So, hello again, and hello to everybody who are here today with us. We have called this meeting together to discuss about the theme that is very often in our minds, or at least for me, it is an important subject. How I can change my and change certain things in my life. And what I've noticed that is that often I bump up on obstacles, like, and I even don't know what are the obstacles. I have this great plan to, start to go to gym or waking up early in the morning. And first it's like, yeah, I'm doing it. 5 days goes by and suddenly I noticed that I'm starting to sabotage myself, thinking, oh, today longer. Today I'm tired, I can't go there, or I have other things. And slowly I noticed that the plans what I had to actually make positive changes in my life are suddenly like disappearing, and I'm back in my old way of being. And especially after New Year's, many people are making plans or manifests what they're gonna do for the new year, and very often they find months earlier they don't even remember what they were. So this is the subject of what we have today, that how we can actually make changes in our life. And what is how to find these inner sabotages, what are actually blocking us making these changes, and what they are actually. So, and Arnold, as you are one of those people who are being on a field of self-development for a very long time and helped many people dealing exactly with the same issues. Actually, you have helped me with certain very important things to come over or go through these blocks and make changes what actually make me feel better and centered. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how maybe even in a context of change habits, and how you actually build motivation and how you actually make things happen in your life?
Okay, sure. So my name is Arnold Timmerman, and I've got a slightly different accent to you. I'm not from Estonia. I'm originally Dutch, but I've been away from Holland since 2000. And my life knows a lot of changes. I've changed so many times because something did not feel right, and I would then kind of change direction. So there were plenty of times in my life that I felt kind of really connected to some kind of inspiration or some kind of passion that would tell me time to move into a new kind of direction and leave that what you know behind you. And that was easy to do. So in a way, I studied law and then was supposed to go into the corporate business. After that, had a huge resume in terms of my study. my student time as well. I'd been very active as a student in lots of committees and become the president of the students in Holland as well for a year. So there was a real network that was pushing me to go into a certain direction. And funny enough, just before I got my graduation ceremony, I got selected for a creative project in the United States that would take me there for 2 weeks through beautiful countryside, all sponsored by, back then, Marlboro. And it would teach me, I would get master classes from artists that were flown in, and they would teach us how to be creative and how to allow the creativity that was within to come out. And I did not know that I was creative, so it was a bit awkward to be selected on that. And yet, after that, I came back and I suddenly fell in love with photography, making magazines, and just literally decided to change direction right there, right then, and to say goodbye to Unilever. That was the big company that I was going to be working for. And from there onwards, my life changed every couple of years in a way, because something else was calling louder than the thing that I was doing. So that combined with call it a sort of a spiritual path or a self-development path that happened it started when I was 10, really. And it created a big interest in what makes people tick, what is it that drives us in making our decisions, kind of our communication, the way we experience life, and what else is out there, and knowing that it cannot just be our body, and it gets born, it dies, and that's it. There must be some other meaning to life as well. So those were two separate paths that then came together in 2003, where I said, okay, enough. I've done lots of different careers, different things, and I want to start using what I know in guiding other people who've got questions. So that happened in 2003, and since then I've been working around the world with different things, and developed my own method, which is Dogma Detox, which kind of we're zooming in on a bit here. Wrote some books, and every single time, still, when there was something saying, okay, time to change, I would. And yet I do recognize that not just in other people's lives who have been helping, but also within my own life, there have been moments where I believed a certain change was necessary, but then something inside of me said no. And I got really curious about that, because I believe that we cognitively look at all the reasons why we should or shouldn't, and then we do these pros and cons. We say, okay, this is why we should, and this is why we shouldn't. And then we put them all next to each other, and then hopefully the why I should change direction is bigger. But that's not always the case. And even though there's a longing to change, I found within myself and within the people that I work with individually or in the seminars, that there is something telling us, if you do that, the chance is too high. There's some kind of cost attached to moving away from what you know. And you should therefore stay right here. And that really, really got me curious. And I got curious not in the symptoms anymore, but what was driving it under the surface. What is the hidden saboteur? What is the hidden thing that tells us, yeah, you might like to, change into a healthier fitness regime, or into a more loving relationship, or whatever it is. But as long as there's information under the surface, or in other words, in our subconscious mind stored there, that says it's just not safe to go there, then that you've got no chance, really. It's like, I call it like the invisible anchor. So the boat is ready to sail and the wind is coming through. Oh, you can see the wind coming over the ocean. It's like, woohoo, and we hoist the sail, and it's like, let's go. And the boat wants to go, and then something is just holding it back. And we just don't know that the anchor is actually wedged in between rocks on the bottom of the ocean. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, and what we can zoom in on in terms of, what are the questions that show up, and what are the ways to detect what is holding us back. Is that a bit clear?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to also mention to all the participants that whoever have a question, during our conversation that we can put it in a chat here, and in the end we can go through them and Arnold can answer them. So whenever you feel like, just put in a chat box your question. So what I'm hearing from you is that so there is this thing inside of us that is
this
like
big
an anchor.
Yeah.
I have noticed that anchor also in me, and it's so interesting that it's just that it forgets everything what I have previously told to myself, where I felt also that inside of me that the change what I want to make is actually really good, and even when I've done it in a certain time, I've started to feel really good, like really good, and then this anchor comes, and it's just kind of like, and the good feeling disappears, and at the same time I'm like puzzled. So what is?
I believe that the anchor is not just showing up. It's always been there. I see it as a truth, as a reality that we've been subscribed to. Like, if you're subscribed to a newsletter about, I don't know, about living a healthy regime. And the healthy regime means you have to work out every day. You have to drink raw juices every day and certain smoothies, green smoothies every day. And by the way, you have to say loving things to your loving partner every day. And that's what you're subscribed to. Now, if at some point, you feel like, oh, I feel like a day off. I want to just watch TV, open a bag of crisps, the potato chips or whatever you call them in Estonia as such. Or I just want to hang out with my partner, but not say too many words, and definitely not be staring in each other's eyes and, gaze at the love that's there. So all of a sudden you want to unsubscribe from that specific reality that tells you this is what you need to do, this is who you should be, this is how it works. And if we don't know how to unsubscribe for that for just one day, it's just like we get this internal friction. So it's like this newsletter that keeps coming into our inbox every day, reminding us of what we need to do. Videos come in as well. And that becomes our all-encompassing truth. But then there's no way to actually veer, to kind of steer away from that if we choose so in that moment. So it becomes a rigid truth and reality. Now, this is true for maybe the healthy kind of truths and realities. But if something else tells you underneath all of it, there's a hidden truth that says, well, why bother? Because life is always going to beat me down, for instance, because that has become a reality over time because of everything that we've experienced. And therefore that becomes the newsletter and the YouTube channel in a way that keeps broadcasting that same kind of truth to us. If we then say, well, I want to change and I want to, something is already longing to move away in a different direction. But then we forgot that there's even something underneath everything. So like this anchor that says, well, no, it's not worth it. And stay here, just be part of my truth, my reality, and, live this story. So it's as long as we are not aware of that anchor or what it is, then we stand no chance. Then yes, some changes can be made. It's not that no changes can be made, but there's certain things that seem to be almost impossible, even though the longing and the desire is very, very clear. And that's where what I like about this time as well, where this is coming up. I mean, the changes that we see on a global level are so big and so fast. There's an exponential, growing change curve. So everything happens quicker and quicker and quicker. Now, with us then being human beings, our generation and younger, it says, hey, I want to be free in my expression. I want to do what I feel like I want to do. But then there's all these hidden truths that tell us, no, you cannot. You have to stay here. And that creates also rigidity and a stuckness, a friction, because yes, we want to change. Yes, we want to be free to express ourselves in different ways and to experience whatever we want to experience. But there's something telling us no. And that's why it's a real juicy kind of subject in the time that we live in.
Yeah, I feel also, if I'm listening inside me, that this kind of friction actually causes me a lot of stress.
Sure.
There is like this wanting to go one direction and going actually to other direction.
Yeah.
And same time, I also this kind of like I'm like people, or I am keeping myself into this mediocre level of, because in one point, because I don't want to feel the disappointment also inside of me, because, you know, when you're hyping yourself up to make changes, and you meet with this inner anchor there, then one moment you start to like, oh, I'm actually fine, my life is good. And this like joy or a passion of life is just kind of starting to disappear somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, quite like a stuck feeling in a way.
Well, that's literally how I meet most of the people that I'm meeting in my seminars and training programs and the one-on-one coaching tracks as well, where they literally use that word, I'm stuck. I know I can create a change, and yet I don't know how anymore. I tried different things. And what I hear is that people have used a lot of their knowledge and the information that's sort of out there to make the changes they want, you know? So we're also part of an information era, you know. We're plugged into so many different sources of information, and they all tell you this is what you should do, this is who you should be. And funny enough, even though they may come from experts in those fields, they are all rigid realities and truths. Now, there's nothing wrong with any kind of rigid truth. There's nothing wrong with, as I call them, dogma at all. You know, it's a certain kind of set of principles that can really guide you for a certain period of time. But if it's so many different kind of realities and dogmas coming in, and some of them actually contradict each other, then it's like, which way do I go? Is it that way or that way? They both tell me that this is how I should be, and yet they're opposing each other. So that creates a stuckness, next to the fact that we all get this information once we start looking at our own life and we feel we want to change things. So we become aware of who we are. So we start a self-development path in a way. There's this thing where all of a sudden we kind of get a bit lost, because when we get told like, you are in power, you are in control over your life, it's also like, I'm in control over all my changes. And then the willpower comes in to create, with a lot of force, create the changes that we want. And they're not necessarily always paying off. And that's becoming frustrating. It's like, I put so much energy into it, I put so much power into it, and yet what I get is nothing. And when that happens, that's when people ring my bell that way, because then I get really curious. Like, okay, so if that is true, you tried so many different things, you put all your power, all your knowledge, all your experience, and still nothing is happening, then to me, it means there's some kind of rigid reality on a subconscious level that you've become subscribed to, maybe a long time ago, maybe recently, that somehow really opposes the change that you want to create in your life. So then I go under the surface, I go beyond what our cognitive mind can tell us, because there's an easy way to tap into what is happening on a subconscious level. And then we can see, you know, what comes up. And you can actually be unsubscribed literally from that rigid reality. And then all of a sudden the change seems to happen automatically, like really effortlessly, which means that no more efforting, no more willpower is used. It's almost like, you know, change was already standing in front of your door and you just had to open it. And then once you open it, then the change is coming in by itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but you mentioned this rigid reality or dogma. Mm. And there are many people, our first reaction is that, okay, what is dogma? So I will say that this is like a belief system or something like that. And what is actually difference between dogma or like you're saying, we want to change things, like we want to change our habits, and we have these beliefs, and you're talking about dogma, and what is that between how they are related to each other, or what's the difference?
Well, the habits, in my experience, are patterns born out of a belief system that is then kind of held and directed and fed by dogma. So if we were to kind of put one underneath the other, it's like at the surface we got habits, and the habits, that's like the things that we seem to be used to doing or used to not doing, and that's our habits. But that is not a conscious kind of decision all the time. It's just being steered by something. It's directed by something. Now, beliefs are, we can often be quite aware of our beliefs, or when we kind of research our beliefs, like there's tons of different methods available that use the belief and the changing of beliefs as a way of changing our perspective of life, and therefore it might help us change our habits. And yes, it can be helpful. Now, if that still doesn't work, then we come to what is actually feeding these beliefs. And my experience has taught me that when a belief is not just floating in thin air, it gets held by something else. And that, in my experience, is a dogma. And a dogma is really a truth, a reality that has become an all-encompassing reality that tells us this is how it always is. So therefore, that and that and that is not it. And with that, it kind of feeds the belief systems, our values. It feeds even our emotional connection to our habits as well, and to life. So unless we really look at that kind of the mothership underneath everything, the rest is quite hard to change. I'm not saying that change can never happen. You heard me say this before. Sometimes just taking a bold step will actually lead to the change that we wanted. Sometimes, if that has been tried, then you can look even at beliefs, and the beliefs kind of drift on top of this kind of truth that tells you this is how it is, because the beliefs actually get supported by that.
So this is the mothership what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we are not aware of it. Yeah, we can't like examine it, like you said, like with beliefs we can go inside and see, okay, I believe that, or I believe this one. So this dogma, what you're talking about, it's not trackable in a way, yeah? Or
it's definitely not something that we're often aware of. What tends to happen when you kind of dive into, this realm of seeing how can I create a change that I want, I go below the habits, because the habits are just a symptom. They're just a consequence of what is alive within us. And therefore, beliefs are supporting that. Certain experiences might support that as well. Therefore, a value system is linked to it. Emotional connection is linked to it. And still, there's a deeper truth to that. There's something underneath it. And yes, the dogma normally stays quite hidden. So when we use what I call dogma detox as an intervention method, individually or collectively, we look at, so if we just really allow our body and being to open and to express what is going on around the stuckness, around the habit that doesn't seem to change, even the beliefs to come up, what then shows up? And funny enough, when people speak about it, it's almost like the dogma shows up at some point, and the words of it don't necessarily even make that much sense. So the difference between belief and dogma, as far as I can tell, is that dogma has beliefs in it, emotional connection in it, memories in it, value system in it. It even talks to our personality and our identity very closely, and it holds all of that together. Now, when a belief on top of that gets kind of uncovered, and we say, "Oh gosh, I've always been believing this. How silly!" But then there is still a recognition of that belief. There's still something saying, "Oh yeah, I remember that we were told that this is what we should believe." With the dogma, the most common reaction that I get from people is like, "I cannot believe that this was there. Like literally as simple as that. And it sits underneath it, but it has its tentacles through all of our life's expression.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. There is one belief kind of thing, but it's been very active in me lately. Is it like, can you like maybe do like, how do I say that? This, what you're saying, that bring out the mothership or the dogma detox, like you said. Can you do it here online? It was like for me, for example. Or...
Sure. I can use you as a guinea pig. I can anyone else who is part of the call here. If anyone has this thing where they feel, gosh, I'm really stuck in this kind of area of life, which could be relationships, finance, career, spiritual development, self-development, certain theme that could come up if people are saying, oh, this is where I feel stuck, or that's where I feel stuck. Maybe there's a collective theme. If not, I can definitely try it with you here, see what comes up. It's always a matter of exploration. That's what I love about this. It's with change, I believe that when change is wanted, change is already knocking on our door. Otherwise, we would not recognize it. So I love it because it's a in a way, there's nothing to lose, because you already know that you want to go in a different direction somewhere, because something has already shown you, like, this is where the longing is, this is what you desire. So because of that, there's an awareness that pulls you in that direction. With this kind of inquiring about what is the underlying truth, once you find it, it's almost like pressure point massage, where you keep holding a pressure point in someone's body. It's like they feel stuck here. You press it, all of a sudden it releases, bang. The biggest deal there is just to find where that point is. Once you have it, you hold it, and then goes. And that's what I love about this way of working with people as well. And it's a soft way, because I found that a lot of the change methods that are available and have been available to us for, I would say, at least over the last 2 decades, of course, for a longer period of time, but over the last 2 decades, it's been really broadcasted to us and at us. Most of them go into this sort of what I call a cold turkey regime. It's like, okay, so this has been your habit. Now it's time to change it. And with that, there's a shock to the system that is not necessarily always helpful. And there's another way where, once you know what the root causes of keeping that kind of habit in place, and you kind of unsubscribe from that, you allow that to disappear, then the habit can fall away by itself. There's no need for that anymore, which is really interesting to see. And I've seen that happen on physical levels. I've seen a woman with asthma, like the biggest dose of asthma, that all of a sudden fell away. And funny enough, it was not even about the physicality. What came up was, I cannot take space for myself, was one of the biggest realities that showed up. Once she was released from that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, the asthma fell away as a symptom, and she started traveling the world and is living a completely different life that's way more aligned with what the life that she was living before, because she had been living in the same village for 32 years or 30 years, I think, at that time, and did not know anything outside of it. So like that, it can be very physical. It can be someone who had anxiety show up and said, whatever I do, medication, nothing seems to happen. And I know I need to stop this, but I don't know how. And then with a little intervention, all of a sudden she's free from anxiety now for 2 years, like nothing left. Just because something else says, okay, let's put it this way. It's because instead of fighting the symptom and saying you need to change that, it's like, what if we get access to that, which puts that anxiety in place all the time? The anxiety is just a habit of our nervous system, of our body, of our being, therefore. So there's a soft way of intervening with that.
There is one woman, Carmen, I see that she's asking that she has a money problem.
Okay.
In a big picture, that she has a fear of asking money for her services. But I'm not sure, is it possible to put her into, would you prefer her to be on a camera mode?
Both is possible. If she wants to join here, that's great. If she wants to write, you can also just write about whatever comes up.
She's ready. Yeah, she's saying she would like to work with you.
Okay.
And she has no audio or mic on her computer. She can only type.
Okay. So yeah, sure. If she writes, Carmen, if you just write anything that comes up in relation to not having the money come in, not being able to ask for money, whatever shows up, and it's not about thinking and editing what you should write. You don't have to be clever or intelligent with it. You just, as I call it, you just kind of chat. You just let it come up and out. You just write automatically. Don't worry about typos. I'll go through it. I'll wade my way through it. So just let us know what is coming up. Just see what shows up. I might ask a few more questions, or maybe not. We'll see. Let me have a look if I can see it here. I'm not enough. I'm not worth. Okay, so there's the beliefs already showing up. And then more specifically around, the money, the money issue. So talk a bit more about it. What happens if you have to ask for money? If there was no other option, then you have to ask for money and to then receive it. Then what? And it's related to business, I get from you as well. Good. So in relation to business, keep chatting. So if there is a way that, you relate to business, just give more information. What is business to you? What is it that, you want to do? And in relation to money, how does this work? Just anything. Great coaching. Yes. I hear this a lot from coaches and therapists who are out there to help people. And then there's this idea, I cannot ask for money. Now we all have our different truths and realities underneath it. Keep chatting. What is it that comes up? If as a coach helping people, you were to ask for money to come, what does that mean about you? What does it mean about life? If you had to ask for money, if you could no longer hide in that way, what then? What comes up? So write in the comments. Let's see if it still happens.
Ask more, she's saying.
Ask more. I
got lost.
Okay, this is beautiful. This is what I call dogma fighting back. So what happens is there's a real desire for change. Then there's the, yes, I would like to try this. And then we go after the rigid reality, the dogma that sits underneath everything that says, no, you're not allowed to ask for money for the kind of job that you're doing. And the minute you kind of connect with that, there's something saying, oh, I got lost. I don't know what's going on anymore. And basically what it does, it's almost like dogma, like a YouTube channel is responding as AI YouTube. It says, don't go. I want to keep your subscription. And it starts fighting back. It starts literally throwing sand in your eyes or ink in the clear water because it wants to keep you. It's a very, very common thing. Let me see what else is coming up. I think it's also about mindset that maybe the person who gives service don't have much money, so they feel bad for asking money. That can be. The trick with this is to stay away from even the ideas that we might have about. So you heard me say, I've seen many coaches and therapists having a struggle with that, with I cannot ask for money. When I help people, that is not okay. But there's also longing to actually earn money with a profession that you've started and knowing that there's experience that can help people. Now, instead of saying, oh, this is true for everyone in such and such way, which is therefore a rigid reality, it's about inquiry. It's about checking what else comes up. I feel like I'm too egocentric if I ask more. Now, I want to ask you, Carmen, zoom out. So instead of staying within money and business, zoom out. You've got this thing that says, I feel like I'm too egocentric if I ask more. Has that been true in other areas of life? If I ask more, I am egocentric. In relationships, in health, in wealth, spiritual development. Just check. Just check. You might get a clear response within yourself that says, no, it's only related to money. Or it's like, oh my God, yes, I can see this being true in different areas of my life. If I ask more, I'm too egocentric. Absolutely. Okay. Now here's one more question, just to check if there's anything underneath this. If you were egocentric by asking for more, what then? What then? What would that be? What would that mean? If you were so egocentric because you are asking for more, then what? What does that mean about life, about you? See what comes up and just share that. Can be anything, just whatever comes up. People would think bad of me. Okay. Let's go with just this very simple criticized, sure. So there's fear coming in as well in this way, which is very normal, because when a rigid reality says, stay with me, whenever you kind of feel like you want to move away from it, the dogma actually tells you don't, and it gives you exactly all the fear-driven reasons why you shouldn't. So in this case, then I would, I would be criticized. People would think bad of me. Yeah. Great. Okay, let's play with this, Carmen. Let's play with this in terms of the one sentence that shows up here. We can try it out anyway. Sometimes the link between beliefs and dogma is quite thin. It's quite short. Let's put it that way. They sit very close together. So we can try anyway if this works for you. We're going with the reality. If I ask more, I am egocentric. Knowing that this has been kind of playing out through different areas in your life, the question is very simple. Does this work for you, or does it cause stress? It seems an obvious question, but I want you to respond to it. Does it really work for you, this idea? Like, if I ask for more, I'm egocentric, or does it cause stress? Just type in the comments. There's a little bit of a delay, of course, with the typing and what we see here, but that's okay. Let us know. Does it cause stress, or does it make you feel okay, and is it all good? Stress. Okay, great. So here's the next question for you. Would you be willing to explore a different reality? Would you be willing to explore something that is not known at the moment, but that's outside this realm of, if I ask for more, I'm too egocentric? Just let me know. Great, beautiful. Then I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes. This is the easiest way of doing it. And everyone else, if you're here on the call and you kind of relate to this subject in one way or the other, you can play along, because this might still be true for you and it might still have an effect on you as well. So I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes and to become aware of your whole body, in this seat, on this chair, wherever you are, and to take a nice deep breath in and out. And I'm just going to ask you, knowing that you've decided to explore outside the old reality, the old dogma of, if I ask for more, I am too egocentric, I'm going to ask you to now welcome that energy, welcome that whole energy of this dogma that says, if I ask for more, I'm too egocentric. just welcome it toward you as if you can almost feel and see the energy come to you, and then let it take up a shape, a form. So if there were a form, a shape that is showing up here, what would that be? And with your eyes closed, just check how it shows up. Let yourself be surprised. It can be anything. So this energy, this dogma, including its beliefs, its values, its vows, its emotions, even the memories that are linked to it, if it all came here and it took up a shape, a form, and this is then the embodiment of that dogma, just check what kind of form or shape it has got. And maybe it's got some color, maybe it's got some thing that you can even feel almost at the surface. And when you see this embodiment, this form, this shape, that is literally the form that represents this dogma that says, if I ask for more, I'm too egocentric. Now imagine that underneath it or on it, there's a red unsubscribe button, the one you know from YouTube or from newsletters, and it says unsubscribe here, unsubscribe now. However that shows up. Knowing that once you click on it, you get automatically released from this old dogma that seemed to be the all-encompassing truth, this rigid reality that said to you, if I ask for more, then I'm too egocentric. So when you are ready, just check what happens when you click on this unsubscribe button now. And then give it some time. Check what you're feeling, hearing, seeing. What is it that you notice? Give it some time. And just check if that form is still there. What is happening to your body and being? Just check. What is taking place now that you've unsubscribed from that old rigid reality? Now maybe if there's some emotional response showing up, that's okay too. And then you just open with that. You just give it some time, give it some space. All emotion comes and goes. It's just energy moving through. Nothing to do with that other than give it some time, some space until you land in something different. Beautiful. And taking a nice deep breath in and out. And then opening your eyes when you're ready. And then I'm very curious to see and hear from you what has changed, what has happened. This was a short version of what I would normally do, but I just want to check, like, what is taking place here? Is the form still there or not? How does your body feel? Just check, anything. Let's see, Carmen is saying, I grew big. The man who was standing on the bank of the ocean left. Okay. So what is it that you're left with? What do you feel internally? How does your body feel? And I'll ask one more question after that as well, just to check. And anyone else as well, if you've done this, if you've really joined us with this, let us know. Let us know what has taken place. What were maybe the forms, the shapes showing up, and what happened once you clicked on that unsubscribe button, which seems so weirdly simple. And yet, Carmen is saying free, much bigger, shining, ocean is free. Great, good. Now, Carmen, I've got one more question for you. If you close your eyes and you stay connected with this feeling of freedom, the ocean, you're much bigger. Just imagine that you are coaching some client, maybe an organization, a business, maybe someone individually. And then check if you're now just asking for money for the service that you've been providing. How does your body and being respond to that? Just check it. Just give it a split second. Just really sense, how does the body respond? How does the mind feel even with it? how does your whole body and being respond to asking for money for the service that you've given? Then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and you can just let us know, what is here now? I see iris, I think it is. If I can also share, there was an old brown box, but after that was a light blue sky. Great. Fantastic. Carmen says, oh my God, I'm so big, that's hard to see. Good. No touching it. That's plenty. That's enough for now. What I'm going to share with you is maybe a bit, it might be a bit strange, maybe not. But for me, once that rigid reality has been unsubscribed from, my ongoing experience to this day is that some change happens within us. And because of that, certain changes on the outside kind of happen as well. In other words, going back to the habits where what Irene and I talked about, habits fall away. The way of being stuck in a certain reality is just no longer an issue. I've had this happen, I would say, 8 out of 10 times, that people whom I've been following up with, I've done loads of case studies, hundreds of case studies, and I would be following up with them a couple of weeks after and a couple of months after, and they would have to be reminded of what it is that they felt so stuck in. Because life had changed completely after that, after this silly, little, tiny intervention. And this is what I love about it. It doesn't really matter, as long as you feel a clear change within your body and being now, then the rest you can just witness over time. And my kind of, I don't know, call it the mantra, if you know this word, or my kind of cliche remark with Dogma Detox is also, the worst case scenario, you just feel a little change now and then nothing changes out there. That's the worst case, Best case scenario, yes, your whole kind of perspective of life, and especially the specific area where you feel stuck in, changes completely, and therefore the habits don't seem to be a problem anymore. You can move in any kind of direction that your longing has been asking you to do. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yes.
Seems a silly little problem now. Great. Good. Good.
Well, our time is starting to 45 minutes.
Okay.
But then a few minutes before we finish that, there is also events coming in May called Dogma Detox.
Yes.
And you are coming into Estonia to that event. So what will, if you shortly can say that now we did this little process, what will happen in these 2 days?
These 2 days that I'm very excited about, because I did them already once in Estonia a couple of months ago. And what I love is that it's all about teaching everyone there how to do this, how to start listening to our body and being, to allow the dogmas, the rigid and hidden realities within us to come up, and then to unsubscribe from that. And also how to deal with if something doesn't seem to work. In the end, the idea of that is that whenever you kind of leave the 2 days, you have a completely different way of listening to communication, listening to yourself as well, and to looking at the certain things that are happening. It's not just a coaching method or a therapy intervention or just a self-development method as such. It's a paradigm busting approach, because basically with everything we say, that the biggest truth is change. And within that, there's no formula to use in this kind of way of creating the change that we want. But there is a method, there's a structure, there's a system that I will hand you that will allow the change to take place very naturally. And it's what I love about it, because I've done so many different coaching methods and therapy methods, and I still use different things, is that I can see the biggest change with such a small intervention, as long as we know how to do it, what to listen for, and how to view any kind of stuckness that is showing up. And it takes 2 days that are very, very interactive. I will be not talking that much. It's literally, I'll give you some exercise, some examples, and I'll give you an exercise. Then you get to experience from the inside out how this works. And then after that, you can use this in your life. Whenever you feel stuck, and you're chatting about it with your friends or something, or a friend chats to you about it, which happens to me regularly. It's like, okay, do you want to play? Let's try something. And then while we're having a coffee, you know, or while we're sitting by the beach or whatever is needed, wherever this is happening, you can do it right there, right then. But for that, you need to understand the basic principles by learning them from the inside out. And that's what these 2 days do.
Right. Yeah. I still remember very brightly the moment in restaurant last time when
yes,
you were.
We did it.
You did it in the conversation. You did dogma detox, and it was huge. I felt really like, wow, I was blown away. I thought, this can't be that simple. Maybe that's also some kind of dogma I have.
Yeah, that is, it's one of the biggest. Yeah, it's one of the biggest dogmas around at the moment, which is natural. Time has been catching up with what we thought that coaching or therapy should be. Because it says, well, if everything is speeding up, why not any kind of change intervention method? You know, of course. So when Dogma Detox was born, I was first very surprised. And then I thought, well, it makes perfect sense. And yes, I call it a self-help app. It's like you've got it with you, not on your phone, but within yourself once you've done these 2 days. And then it becomes part of the conversation. And there's not much needed other than knowing what to look for, what to listen for. And then while you're having a nice chat with your friends, all of a sudden something shows up, try it, and that's it, you know?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Arnold, for this very inspiring conversation.
Well, thank you to everyone here as well for joining us.
Thank you for everybody.
Thank you, Carmen and Iris.
Yes, thank you. And we will meet you in May.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Bye.